This is Wendy Gaylor with the Bedford Area Chamber of Commerce with Chamber Vibes, and we are so excited to have such a wonderful guest this morning, Robert Hiss, our Bedford County Administrator. And welcome, Robert.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. Happy to be here.
You are part of our May Chamber Vibes for Movers and Shakers for Bedford, and we are so excited that you accepted to be our guest speaker today. And, we were so thrilled to have the chat and cheers the other night at Beals. It went so well, and you were so informative with everything that you were saying. We wanted to have you on to tell more people about all the wins in Bedford. And, you arrived in late February 2019, a little over 2.5 years ago, or 2 years and a couple months. And what a great job you have done. I mean, everyone is echoing that statement. And we are just thrilled to have you. You came from, Athens, Georgia, and you were an assistant manager there. And then before that, you were in Virginia working in Pulaski County. So coming back, and you were assistant county administrator there. So we're excited to learn more about you and what drew you here. So what is your favorite attraction for Bedford, and what intrigued you most about the area?
Yeah, well, thanks, Wendy. And, one of the reasons we wanted to come to Bedford County was that we loved Virginia. So that was first, and we were looking for the right location to relocate to. And we enjoyed our time in Athens, and Athens had a wonderful vibe and a great place to work and live. But just part of us always wanted to come back to Virginia, and we were trying to find the right locations, and Bedford just really stood out. And with the quality of people, the quality of life, the mountains in the north, the lake in the south, the beautiful vistas in between, being in between the two metro areas, so we can enjoy I can get the best of both worlds. I can be in a little bit of an urban setting in Lynchburg or Roanoke if I want to be, but what we find is we spend the bulk of our time in our rural setting that we enjoy the most. So, in terms of one thing that we do enjoy, in terms of actual attractions, is that we've been spending a lot of time hiking in the Blue Ridge Mountains and going to the peaks of Otter, checking out all the different trails up there. That's just something that myself and my family have been enjoying. And we've gone to other attractions within the county itself and visited those, but just for right now in our time of life, we seem to enjoy the Blue Ridge Mountains the most.
Oh, and they're so pretty. We're right here in such like you said, a gorgeous area. So in your spare time, what do you like? And you've mentioned hiking, so that's wonderful. And I know you go to a lot of swimming events with the kids. I see that. And so what do you like to do for fun with the family?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't have a ton of free time. So,
right, let's talk about
and that's just part of the job and
sure.
part of what it is. But when it comes down to it, my free time it's all about family, and that is the priority, is spending time with them. I have two boys, 13 and 17 today. Today is my older son's birthday.
Happy birthday!
So anyways, with them becoming teenagers and mom and dad not being as cool as they used to be and as fun as they used to be, I really try to find as much time as I can to spend with them on their terms, and try to relate to them and the different things that they enjoy. Because honestly, as a parent, I just realize that you're not going to have a ton of those types of times and make those memories going forward as they grow and get into college and families. You'll get into different types of memories. So I just really try to value that time a great deal. So we just try to make the most of it. So I run a little bit when I'm not when I'm feeling good and I'm not hurt, but I do run. I bike some. I do like to play golf, but I don't get to do that very often. So I want to do more of that, and I do read a good bit, to be honest with you. But I do read fiction mostly.
Okay.
I'm not. The way I see it is there is too much real life all the time.
Sure.
So
that's your escape,
and it is somewhat of an
understand.
escape, is to use that imagination and so forth. And there's this, with all the social media, with all the news outlets and everything else is constantly coming at you. There's enough there's enough nonfiction in my
Sure.
everyday life that my cup runneth over with that. So getting a little bit of fiction involved is something that I do enjoy.
That is so great. Well, I remember when you first arrived in Bedford and you took on your position, and I was so impressed because you had such a vision for Bedford, and we were all just waiting, for you to come and just really implement that vision. And talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so part of the vision for Bedford, the way I look at it is there's kind of two different ways to frame it. There's number one is just part of my job with being county administrator and supervising, basically being the chief executive officer of a essentially $115 million company with 700 plus employees. So I look at a lot of our internal operations. So I have to cast a vision internally as well, which is a lot about communication, collaboration, working with each other, not operating in a crisis mode. I mean, operating in chaos is something that's we don't want to be part of that. Trying to be innovative. I think a lot of people don't equate public sector and local government with being innovative, but we can. I mean, we have a lot of talented a lot of our employees are really talented and bring a lot of great ideas. And that was something I really wanted to foster internally, is making sure that, yes, we do have our department heads and constitutional officers, but those 20 people or so, yes, I do rely on them an awful lot, but that leaves another 680 plus employees that bring their talents and abilities and skills and visions and knowledge to work every day. And wouldn't it be a shame if we didn't do a good job of tapping into that instead of limiting it to certain individuals? So that's a cultural thing that we've been talking about, and just being transparent and open is important. So, but then you have the external vision as well. And a lot of that goes back to leveraging what I've kind of already referenced, our natural resources and our locations, our people who bring a lot of talents and abilities to uh, their respective jobs and positions and what they help out with in the community. But I think the final thing I'll say with this question is that we're starting to enter into some big planning aspects to really cast that vision. We're starting to work on our comprehensive plan, which we can talk about that a little bit more. The Economic Development Authority has a strategic planning session set for the end of August. I talked earlier this week with our Board of Supervisors about setting a strategic planning session for later this fall, and they're interested in doing that as well. So I'm excited about coming. I mean, to me, the planning aspect is exciting because that gives us the goals and the vision to work towards, and so that's going to help define what this community is going to be looking like for decades in the future.
Sure. And what you just spoke about for communication and collaboration, you're doing such a wonderful job cultivating a great team, which is really speaking volumes to the entire county. So thank you for your work there, because we know that it takes a team and it takes a great leader to do all that you have to do for the county. So what is new for Bedford?
Well, you know, there's lots of things to talk about here. So, a couple things is that just for internal perspective, again, that's where I spend most of my time is internally. We have a number of new department heads and leaders in our organization. We have a new deputy county administrator, Amanda Kaufman, who's been with us for about a year and a half. We have a great IT director, Elizabeth Lowe, who's been with us just a little bit over a year. And thank goodness she got here to help out with COVID and all the adjustments we need to make in the technology realm. We have a new nursing home director, Paul Poff, who is just knocking it out of the park all the time with the nursing home and is really doing a wonderful job. Right now we're interviewing for public works director, and we've also hired internally for our new community development director, Jordan Mitchell. I mean, it was great that we had somebody with enough talent and ability and knowledge within our organization to be able to promote. So there's been a lot of changes within our organization, and that'll probably continue to happen. But that might be not what your listeners want to hear necessarily, but I mean, that's exciting to
Change
me.
can be good.
If so, but in terms of what's new for Bedford, of course, Chamber, you witness this weekly almost, or likely maybe more than weekly, is, with all the new businesses that are opening all the time, with whether it's small or large or somewhere in between. That's something that's awesome to see in our community. Something that I'm proud of seeing in our economy, and this is all credit goes to the private sector and their resiliency through this COVID pandemic, and really before that in Bedford County. Because if you think about it, our economy before the pandemic was really knocking out of the park in Bedford County, and really, for that matter, in this region. But even through the pandemic and looking at our budget numbers and so forth, one of the things I look at is how are people spending their money. So I like to look at our sales tax and lodging tax and meals tax, because those are things that's an indication of where money is being spent in our community. And I'm happy to say that we're up over 30% in sales tax, which is just setting records, and we're killing records that we've ever had. I mean, in fact, it's kind of hard to budget for it, quite frankly, because it's so much. We're not used to seeing that. Lodging tax is similar, 30%. Meals tax, unfortunately, is right pretty much where we thought it was going to be, so it's pretty level. But if you think about it, restaurants over the last year, we're only able to operate at like 50% capacity. So honestly, if we're breaking even from a meals tax perspective, being operating at 50% capacity, that's probably not bad, all things considered, and hopefully that'll improve in the future. The final thing I guess I'll say, a couple other things that are new, is that New London Park is very active right now. It's almost unprecedented. We have 3 projects under construction in the New London Tech Park. So Nano Touch is expanding, so they're adding onto their facility and adding a few employees. We have a brand new business, Damage Prevention, who is constructing a new facility. They're relocating from another part of Virginia. And then in last November, the county finished our first ever shell building. So we built a 40,000 square foot shell of a building, and we're hoping to find a tenant for that. And amazingly enough, within about 3 months, Belvac, who a lot of people know from Lynchburg, said, you know what, we need to expand. We have all sorts of great reasons. We have a good success story here, and we want to be in Bedford County and be in that facility. So we worked out a pretty good deal for both parties, us and Belvac, and they're actively building out that shell building to fit their needs. So, and they're going to bring about 50 employees over the next couple of years too. So, and what's even better is that all that construction is being kept local. So Coleman Adams has all 3 contracts and whatever subs that they use and so forth. So that's an awesome success story right now.
Absolutely, it is, and there's so many wonderful things going on right now to expand, and businesses and certainly many opportunities available right here in the county that you guys are cultivating. So give us an overview of broadband success right now. Where are we?
Yeah, so when I first got here, and even during the interview process, this was a priority of the Board of Supervisors. Of course, they formed a broadband authority a few years ago in order to help with this, and so broadband has been front and center for 2 years, and it's going to continue for a few years, I imagine. So we have finished. It's roughly a $4 million partnership project in partnership with Blue Ridge Towers and their internet service provider, BriskNet. So that was a series of 11 different tower locations throughout the county to help service the county. So the internet provision off of that has been kind of sketchy and may not have lived up to exactly the expectations that we were hoping to. But at the end of the day, the project is still a success. I mean, part of what this project was all about was building infrastructure. And that's something that local governments do, is create infrastructure for the private sector to build off of and thrive off of, and for citizens and residents as well. So the infrastructure is there, these 11 towers, 200 feet, and we have space for other providers, either internet service providers who are in the wireless business, in order to locate there. So we are hoping that over the years we'll continue to see other providers there in addition to BriskNet, and hopefully they'll grow and prosper too. So that's been complete. We've also, with the CARES Act money that the local governments received last fall, we entered into some contracts with B2X and with another small company out of Moneta called Zytel. And B2X upgraded their equipment on 4 different tower locations throughout the county, so they have a bigger and broader reach and being able to enroll more residents. Zytel did a good bit of work kind of in the south, in between Moneta and Bedford, and also some work in the Big Island area, laying fiber. And that project, both of those projects are complete. They were both complete by the end of December. So they're actively signing up people left and right. We've also entered into a new contract with Zytel to do some work in the Boonesboro area in a couple different neighborhoods, and that'll pass another 800 homes. Not say all 800 will sign up, but that's a great footprint. Probably the bigger one project that I also inherited that was finished was a big one with Comcast. It was through a Tobacco Commission grant and partnership, was mostly around Smith Mountain Lake, where Comcast has finished their project where they laid fiber and passed 8,000 homes in the Smith Mountain Lake area. I don't have the numbers as to exactly how many people they've signed up, but having that infrastructure there for 8,000 homes to now potentially tap into if they want to be a Comcast customer, that wasn't there 2 years ago. So that's awesome. Final thing I'll say about our broadband, it's not over. We still have large areas in Bedford County who have very limited internet access and need improved service. And so we have issued a request for proposals that just went out last week, and we have a deadline in mid-June. We've been talking with all sorts of internet service providers throughout the region and the county this winter and spring, and our goal is to get these proposals and leverage these proposals with the American Rescue Plan funds that the county has received, and hopefully get into some grants. And I think that we'll be able to, I know we'll be able to grow the internet footprint in the county through that effort.
And speaking of the grants, I know during COVID, you guys had given out many grants for our business community. And going forward, is some of that money going to come around again?
We haven't decided that yet.
Okay.
It is certainly an eligible expense with the American Rescue Plan. So just real quick, Bedford County is going to receive about $15.3 million. All local governments across the state and across the country, whether you're a town, county, or city, has received a certain allocation through that literal act of Congress. So we're going to, we'll receive that. We have several years to spend it. And doing something in the business community is certainly an eligible expense. We have not met with the Board of Supervisors to set the priorities and decide where they want to target those funds yet. I imagine broadband is going to be a big ticket item because it's still a big need. But if certainly the business community, and especially businesses that still haven't quite recovered or have suffered and could still use some assistance, I mean, that would be something that we would certainly look at.
Sure. And so what is on the horizon for Bedford, and including tourism and other departments?
Well, lots of things going on. Speaking of tourism, I mean, Smith Mountain Lake area is so active, it's hard to keep up. To be honest with you, there's a lot of things going on down there. I know that I've been thrilled to meet with and talk with the new owners of Mariners Landing. They such a great asset to that area of the county, and they're taking that in a whole different direction and improving it every single day. And there's so much energy and excitement coming out of Mariners that's going to have a big impact in all of Smith Mountain Lake. But there's just a lot of activity right now with different investors who are looking at various properties. And so I think there's going to continue to be, as long as the economy continues to flourish, I think this will be a great time for Smith Mountain Lake. Also, in terms of moving forward, some things that we're looking at is, as I like to say, do we to solar or not to solar? That is the question.
That is the question.
So that people have probably seen in news about some different communities about solar farms, utility scale solar farms. So the Board of Supervisors tasks the Planning Commission with reviewing that and issuing a report back to the board. Study solar farms. If we enact some sort of ordinance or regulations, what does that look like? How does it work? Where does it go? Et cetera, et cetera. And we expect to have a report late summer, early fall from the Planning Commission about that and see where that takes us. And there's pros and cons, and there's passions on either side, and that's part of the public process, is to work that out and see where we go with that or not go with that.
To be or not to be.
That's right. I've already mentioned the American Rescue Plan and opportunities through that. Speaking of tourism, again, I'm jumping around a little bit here, where staff is studying and working hard on establishing a tourism incentive zone. So you've probably heard, and other people have probably heard of enterprise zones. We have a tech zone in the New London Park. Well, by law, we can establish a tourism zone, and with various tax incentives and rebates and so forth for businesses that are basically in the hospitality industry, so to speak. So that's a lot of small businesses that would really qualify. And if we ever had hotels, they would certainly qualify too. So that's something that we're currently drafting, and I'm excited to hopefully have that implemented. And we'll have to pick a zone to start with, and then we'll see how it goes and see how we can grow with that. But that's something I'd really like to accomplish in conjunction with the board. I'd really like to do it sometime this summer, but certainly this calendar year. The comprehensive plan is something big that we're working on. Again, the Planning Commission is working hard on that right now. That's this is a 5-year update, but with the growth of Bedford County, we're still casting that vision for a 10-year period. And there's just so much going on with Bedford County. We're about, I think with a census, we'll probably get really close to, if not break 80,000 people, which makes us as big as the city of Lynchburg.
That's right.
Which is hard to fathom. So we need to be thinking about a lot of things as this community continues to grow.
As we prepare for that growth.
That's right. So infrastructure is going to be a big issue. And of course, you hear in the news, Washington, D.C. people debating what infrastructure means. But from a local government perspective, I can't talk about what Congress perspective. I don't understand their perspectives a lot of times. But from a local government perspective, infrastructure, you're talking about roads, you're talking about water, sewer, public safety, schools, broadband, those types of things that's what we consider to be infrastructure. And that's what, that's the type of things that we need to be thinking about when we go through this comprehensive plan as we grow.
And the transportation, the public transportation, and the train that we could potentially get right here in Bedford is very encouraging. And it is looking good right now. We don't know, but it's, in the meetings, it's definitely looking like it could happen. So that will support as well. And we're looking forward to many more wonderful things to come to Bedford. But certainly the planning and the vision, you have it. And we are so grateful for all that you're doing. Please keep it up. And we'll look forward to working more collaborative with you at the Chamber. And thank you again. And please come back and join us and tell us more.
Well, thanks, Wendy. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.